Hello, I'm Jacqueline Holstead, and you are listening to On Point Conversations. In this podcast series, we share creative marketing, content, and branding strategies that help your business successfully navigate the new normal marketing environment. In my podcast today, I am going to continue the conversation about archetypes. And I got questions regarding archetypes and the usage of them during this last week. Archetypes are simply cultural categories. Carl Jung, some time ago, as a psychologist, outlined these as basic human traits. So there were 12 of them, and I use the 12. And I use them in branding and sometimes in more complex projects where the audience is described as a demographic, which means we think we know the ages, we think we know the various criteria of them, more like a profiling of the audience. But we also know that, and I do too, that people are different. And just because you land in a certain age category or a certain ethnic group or whatever, there are still certain characteristics that are different. Some people who are baby boomers are more explorers, and some are more person next door, and some are more in different categories. And we also know that humans are very complex. So you're in different categories, and you could be, I know I am, in different times of the day or in different eras of my lifetime. I'm in different categories, and I combine those categories. So I use them in branding because it gives a very human touch to the people you're trying to reach. It goes along with the psychographics of people, like what their hobbies might be, what they might do for fun and relaxation, and a number of things in the psychographic point. And then it should be an adjunct or an addition to your demographic audience. In the last podcast that I did on architects, I identified the purist or the idealist, and then the person next door, and then the category of the entertainer or performer, and then the teacher, and the explorer, and also the thrill seeker. And today what I'm going to do is go back and talk about the last 6 that I have on my list that I use. And those are, I'm going to talk about the partner or maybe the team builder, the harmonizer. The second or other category is the creator, which will be your musicians and your dreamers. Third category today will be the visionary. Fourth is the kind of the boss, the manager. Fifth is going to be the hero, the competitor, and the sixth will be the caregiver. And we'll look at each of these categories the way I did last time in those 6 categories and those 6 archetypes. And we'll add some things to them to talk about them as a whole. The first one I'm going to approach on is the team builder or harmonizer or connector. And often those people are the people that are perhaps on LinkedIn, and they're connecting with their networking groups, they're connecting people with jobs, they're connecting people with other people. Or you might see them in your team builder groups. They're the ones who build teams. As an audience, again, they're also the harmonizer and the connector and the builder. And their motto might be, you're the only one. So they're looking at this as a team, as they want to be part of the team, and they're looking at it as being at one. Their core desire is really that experience. And they want some collaboration or some community in it. Their goal is that they want relationships with people, not only in their work and surroundings with things they love, but also outside their work and surroundings. One of their fears or greatest fears might be being alone or a wallflower, unwanted, unloved, not being noticed. And we look at their strategy as to become more and more emotionally attached. They want to build an experience that applies to all the senses. So they're the type of person who, again, is the team builder and the connector. Their weakness probably would be, I would suggest, is more of an outward directed desire to please others. So there's a risk of losing their own identity. And they're very outward directed, so their desire is to please others. The talents that they bring to a group or bring to an audience is that they're passionate, they're grateful, they appreciate things, and they have a commitment. Some of the brands you might think of that fall under this might be Victoria's Secret. If you're familiar with cosmetics, NARS has done that, at least in the past. And the voice they portray is more adjective-rich. It's more based on you're part of the group. It's more based on wanting to get your feedback. It's more based on cooperation. And the customer really is more excited and moved forward by that feeling. And living your brand is sharing their passions. So these people are looking for companies that share their passions, that are looking to extend their own ability to connect with others. And they are also team builders. The next category of cultural category would be more of the creator. I would look at them as the artist or the designer, the maker, a dreamer, a builder, musician. So this particular category is if you imagine it, it can be done. So these are people that are looking forward to designing things that haven't been done before. They're looking at how things go together, and their really desire is to create things of enduring value. So things that last for a long time, things that are part of the culture for a long time. And their goal is to realize a vision. They want to hone their own artistic skills. They want to express themselves, and they really promote individuality. Their fear is that they have a mediocre vision or execution, or they lose inspiration. And the strategy is that they want to develop their artistic control and skill. So their task really is to create a culture and express their own vision. Now, one of their weaknesses might be perfectionism and going towards a bad solution and not being able to give it up. So once they have their mind set to a certain solution, not looking at all the different areas to see that it might be weak in certain areas, and then they have to change direction. Their talent, well, obviously it's creativity and imagination. And they're, again, as I said, they're more the artist, the inventor, musician, writer, dreamer, art director, designer, all the people that kind of go into that whole creative category. You might look at brands that represent that as Legos, Canon, or YouTube. And their voice, it's very unique. It's descriptive. It's very visual and metaphor rich. So when you're reaching out to these audiences, that's the kind of voice you want to be using. And the feel is that they want to do good work. They want to do what they can do, and they want to be very amazed and inspired. The next category is we call them the Visionaries. And we all know Visionaries. Steve Jobs is an ideal look at what a visionary is. People who developed Facebook or Google, they're visionaries. They got into something and they made things happen. So that's really their motto, is they make things happen. They do what they can do. They go forward. They move around. They decide different strategies. They're really the visionary of what they see as the next step as being something that probably maybe not a lot of other people see yet. Their desire is really they want to understand the fundamental laws, and they want to make their dreams come true. So they're trying to understand how we're going to move forward as a society sometimes, and also what is a way to really fundamentally make their dreams come true of what they think the next step should be. Their goal is to make their dreams come true. Their greatest fear would be unintended negative consequences that their inventions or methodologies do that they didn't plan that they would do. They want to develop their strategy, which is really developing a vision that they live by it. They want to help other people. They want to transform their lives using new methods, inventing new methods and processes and technologies and things that make our lives easier. Their weakness is that they can become kind of manipulative. They can take us into a direction maybe the audience isn't prepared for. It is in the right direction. And their talent, though, is really finding win-win solutions. So this is really a group that wants both to win. Brands that I think of are something like Disney, Lululemon, which is the athletic company, TED Talks. Their voice is very expansive. It's moving. It's articulate. They want to experience and they want to be on the cutting edge. They want to be fascinated. They want to be enchanted. And when you live their brand, you're really up there with knowing the latest trends and helping define new ones, and you're transforming the best you possible. And you're looking at it. Oftentimes, an executive, a CEO, will be looked at it as a visionary because they're looking at where is this company going to go from here. And they're surveying not only what's going on now, but they're thinking from a dreaming standpoint what could be next. And they're working towards actually making that happen. From the visionary category, we move to the manager. This might be the politician, the boss, the executive. Their motto might be that power isn't everything, it's the only thing. So they're looking at ways, especially when a politician, they're looking at power, and they want to create a prosperous, successful community. Their core desire might be more control, and their goal is to create a prosperous, successful community. That's their goal, because that will make them look better, and it will also make other people better. So their strategy is exercising really that power. They have confidence, exclusivity. They live the lifestyle they want. Their greatest fear is chaos, or being overthrown, or not being elected to office, or losing influence or control. And their weakness then comes from the opposite side, which is being very authoritarian and unable to delegate. And we hope that isn't the case when you get into be a manager or a boss, but that can be something that comes up. And their talent really is responsibility and leadership. So their brands might be something like that you might think of when you think of this category as Rolex, American Express, Louis Vuitton. The voice to this particular category is very refined and articulate. And the customer what they want to feel is that if I follow this, I'll share their success. And they want to be, of course, admired, and they want to be enthralled in the message. So that living their brand would mean showing images of other influencers in your community, dressing and looking the part of this kind of person or this kind of category. The next category, and the fifth of the 6 categories I'm going to talk about today, is the hero. And they're more the soldier, the competitor, the achiever. They're looking at, and their motto might be, where there's a will, there's a way. So their really desire is to prove their worth through courageous acts, through things that they do that make a difference. They want to, their goal is to get very mastered in the things that they need to know in the ways that improves the world. Their fears might be weakness, vulnerability, a body giving out. And so their strategy is to be as strong and competent as possible, to take action, be decisive, overcome challenges. And then the weakness that they prove or have might be arrogance and always needing another battle to fight. This is a very good group for talent, being that because they're very competent and they have courage. And brands you might think of that might show this particular archetype are not brands like Nike, FedEx, Marines, some of the NFL football teams, or maybe all of them football teams. So their voice is very self-confident, it's motivational, it's self-discipline, it's being an expert. And these customers want to feel inspired again. They want to overcome the challenge with some massive action. They're being empowered, they're determined, and they're motivated. And when they live your brand, they're inspiring others by showing the challenges they've overcome. They want to challenge themselves, they want to challenge you, and they want to get better physically. Their insight is that they're revered and trusted, and people want to imitate them. So sometimes this comes very much in that influencer role, especially if you're looking at more of a superhero hero role. There are other influencers also, but this is one influencer. You've probably seen many ads on television or wherever you're watching that have NFL players who are bringing sort of a message that they're influencer for a certain brand. So that's their particular influence rubs off on that brand. The last category in this is the caregiver. Maybe it's a parent, supporter, advocate, nurturer, teacher. So they're out there, they're loving their neighbors as themselves, and their core desire is really to protect